Hey everyone, welcome back to Mason Woodshop. In this video, we are taking a look at WeCreat all new Vision Pro 45 watt diode laser. Now this has something that they call BeamFocus technology, where this 45 watt diode laser has almost the same capabilities as a few of the 60 watt diode lasers on the market, allowing it to cut 25mm basswood in just a single pass. So that is a big claim. However, that's not the coolest thing about this laser, so make sure you stay tuned for kind of the full review so that you can see what I think is one of the most impressive things of this laser. Now, this is a direct competitor to Xtool's S1 40 watt diode laser. However, it does have a couple of integrations that I think does separate it from the Xtool in a few ways. Now, this was provided free of charge for review purposes from WeCreat. However, they're not reviewing the content of this video, but in the essence of full disclosure, I will have affiliate links in the description below for those that are hoping to purchase this. That does bring a little bit of money back into my pocket, which as a small creator is very helpful. So without further ado, let's take a look at what comes with the WeCreat Vision Pro 45 watt diode laser. All right, so I'm not gonna show you the full unboxing. I will show you everything once I unpack it. However, WeCreat does have an amazing video showing you how to get this out of the box, how to ensure that you get all the packaging material out, and how to get it initially set up. So take a look at that video linked in the description below. All right, so here we have everything that was packed inside my version of the Vision Pro. So we have the tray for underneath. We have two of these grates for putting inside. So they're the bed that you'll be doing your cutting on. We have an exhaust hose. We have a clamp for that. We have the adapter for the back. We have the power cord. We have a couple of little cable management pieces. We have the USB connectivity with a USB-C adapter. We have some lubricating grease. We have a Wi-Fi antenna, which is interesting. We have some various tools so that we can do any of the maintenance on the laser itself. We have a couple of test pieces, which is really cool. I haven't actually had a laser yet in the shop that has that. We have a spare cable. We have some spare screws and nuts. We have the air assist with the air assist hose. Then up here, we have everything for the rotary attachment, all the accessories, so you'll be able to combine those to do a lot of engraving on various items. Then we have the instruction manual, the quick start guide. And finally, we have the best sample pack of materials that I've ever found in a laser. So this is 8 pieces of 3mm thick, 150mm square basswood plywood. We have some silicone watch bands for Apple Watches. We have bottle openers, coasters, electroplated steel pendants. We have a whole bunch of leather pieces as well as a piece of opaque acrylic, and I think that there's also ABS plastic in here. Yeah, so a whole variety of material, which is great for those looking to get started and see what their Vision Pro can do. So once you get all the packaging out, this is going to be a very quick setup to get up and running. First of all, we are going to put in the included tray, and the instructions just say to like lift up the base a little bit and start to slide the tray in. And once you start to see it come underneath, you can then put it on a couple of rails and it slides in quite easily. Just push that all the way back. We can then put in the bed. Very easy to do. You can slide, oh, can't slide the laser out of the way yet. So actually we're just gonna keep those out. One thing that I do wanna note is that on my laser, the air assist hose was disconnected and probably just fell out, but I was able to just put it back on, tighten the nut, all good to go. We then have 6 screws on either side to remove so that the gantry can move, so I'm gonna do that now. All right, so we got those screws out. Let's close the lid and move around back. Okay, so around back, we have the air assist power. We have the outlet for the air to go in. We have the on-off switch. We have DC input, USB, and then we have the exhaust and Wi-Fi antenna over here. So to connect the air assist, we can just simply line that up and screw that on. Then on the back of the air assist, we can connect this end of the air hose. Just slides on like that. And then the other end just easily clamps in right here. Just one of those things where you push in and then it's going to hold, and then you can just release it by pushing that in. Not going to connect the power yet, but USB, we'll get that hooked in. I'm not going to be putting the Wi-Fi antenna on right now. I am just going to use the USB connectivity with my MacBook. And then you can remove these nuts, install this, which has a nice gasket on it on the back, and then we're going to connect the hose. All Right, just slide that on and then put the nuts back on. All right, and then sliding the exhaust hose on with the clamp is very easy. And then just lock down the clamp. And finally, the power cable, just plug that in there, and then we'll plug the other side into the outlet. Okay, so I've downloaded the WeCreat software, and I'm going to turn on the unit. I haven't configured the software. I will do a little bit of screen recording later on, but it is connected. So we're going to turn on the laser and see what it does. Oh. Oh, there we go, it's moving. And this is really just kind of one of the really cool features with the WeCreat Vision Pro and the Vision before that, is that it does basically have a riser base installed because the whole machine raises up. Which, let me just move this a little closer, and you can see that the laser head is now moved significantly higher than the base, which is amazing. So I think when it does come to other lasers, whether it's the S1 from Exo, which is a great laser, you do have to buy the riser base separately, which isn't too expensive, but this basically has that integrated into it. And I think that that's just really one of the cool party tricks, probably beyond a party trick, of course, with the WeCreat Vision 2 or Vision Pro. All right, let's take a quick tour of the Vision Pro, and you'll notice that it's a very clean design. So we've already shown the back, so I'm not going to go over that again, but no buttons or anything over on that side. Nothing on the left side, and just this single kind of start, stop, pause button on the front. I do wish more lasers had more of a panel on here. I've gotten really used to that with my 3D printers, but it is what it is, and almost everybody in the market is just kind of moving that one button. Now, an odd thing that's not on here is an emergency stop on the side. Now, this button will stop it, and you can also just lift the lid and it'll stop, and the power button's on the back, so I don't really have any concern, but I'm so used to the lasers that I've had, they've had like a big red or yellow button on the side as an emergency stop. So this doesn't have that. Not a concern for me. The build quality is absolutely phenomenal. So really nice metals, really nice brushed metal there. And you'll also see that it does have this brush system all the way around for when it does move up and down. Now, moving inside the laser, and you'll see the slat system there. So I have installed one slat already, and slide in the other. A little tough to do with one hand, but there we go. Before, when I tried to put in the slats, they weren't going in because it was in transport mode, which sinks the laser a little bit lower, but very easy to install this way. Now, on the slat topic, I'm okay with this, but I do wish that they had a honeycomb panel available. There we go. Because honeycomb works really well with like magnetic clips, because not all material that you work with is perfectly flat. So it is nice that these are just kind of already joined together in two pieces rather than having to install every single one of these together like I had to with my Creality Falcon 2 Pro. But I do hope that they come out with a honeycomb panel at some point. Now let's move to the star of the show, and that of course is the 45-watt diode laser with BeamFocus technology that allows it to cut up to 25mm thick basswood. That doesn't mean you should cut 25mm basswood for your projects because you will have burning. It's just not going to give the most clean cut, but it's kind of a good sign of the power of this laser. And it's also super fine spot size with that 0.0mm squared, which is kind of best in class for this laser. So quite happy with that. Now, taking a look at, as far as accessories that can attach to this, we do of course have the rotary connectivity at the back, as well as something that's really cool, and that's that you can mount the rotary attachment to the side over here. And what that does is it allows you to have the exact same positioning every single time, which is a very welcome addition as somebody that has done a bunch of rotary work in the past. Something curious, you'll see there, it's already dusty in here, and I have not done any cuts or engraves. However, given that these came in the accessory box, I'm quite confident that these were test engraves and calibration from the factory. So nice that they did that with this, because to me that means that it's already calibrated and I shouldn't have to do anything out of the box. So quite happy with that. As far as other expansion of this, there is a conveyor that can attach to the bottom that gives you the ability to cut material up to 137 inches long, which is absolutely wild. What's also nice that I kind of skipped over at the beginning is the bed size here is 500 by 320 millimeters, which is on par with the X-Tool S1, and I have very rarely found that to be a limiting factor with any of my engraved work. We also have the exhaust port at the back, of course, and we have kind of what you can see all the wiring in here. Now, this is an interesting implementation because it's so nicely painted in here. The cables are managed so well, and you just don't see this on the X-Tool lasers. However, this kind of wiring would exist on the X-Tool lasers. It's just covered by a piece of metal. So it is kind of an interesting implementation from WeCreat that they leave those exposed. I have no concerns about any sort of like ripping or dust impacting them. Just a slightly different approach than with the X-Tool. Now, as far as other things I want to highlight in here, we have a light bar at the back here that stays illuminated. And when the lid opens, the light bar up here turns off, but once you close it, it does illuminate. And we, of course, have the HD camera up there that I can't wait to see if it is more useful than the cameras that I've been using on the Creality lasers. So I think that does it kind of for the overview of the unit itself. Okay, so we are going to connect the laser to the WeCreat MakeIt software that we just downloaded. And I'm just going to turn the laser on. And I haven't played with this too much, but I did remove the laser. But now what you're going to see is we're just going to go to Canvas. This isn't meant to be a video tutorial on how to use the software by any means. We're just going to be doing a couple tests. As soon as you turn on the laser, it does rise up, and we should see this kick over to connected in a moment. There we go. And it's already refreshed the camera. And a couple things I do want to quickly highlight in the settings is there are a couple of ways to, like here, lower the device to the bottom for idle mode. And if you click any of these, it will give you a warning so that you clear the bed of any sort of material as far as what's needed. So same with the transportation mode, they make sure that you're doing it safely, so that's great. I'm going to skip over camera calibration because I'm going to assume that's calibrated straight from the factory. So we are going to engrave some basswood. So I'm just going to drop in one of these 150 millimeter square sheets. Just going to throw it in the middle, and that is 3 millimeters. We're going to select that in the software. Again, this is even nicer than the selection in the X-Tool XCS software, quite frankly. But we are going to confirm that. Let's refresh the camera. Then what we're going to do is we are going to bring in the Mason Woodshop logo. It's a big SVG, so it usually just comes in as large as it can. And this is just one of my go-to tests when testing any new laser. And the basswood's not perfectly square, doesn't really matter, but I'm just going to adjust it slightly. Let's just refresh. There you go. Yeah, still not great, but that's fine. And we're just going to position it up here because we're going to do a couple of things. We are going to, okay, so it's already kind of modified the settings over here. So we're going to leave power, so fill engrave is what we're looking for. 55% power, speed of 278, very precise, and the various density. And oh yeah, it's a very exactly like X-Tool, how you can actually select kind of what shade of color you're hoping for. And these are done on a 45 watt laser, which is fine. That's pretty close to the 40, or that 40 is pretty close to the 45. This is great. This is actually the way that they display this is even better than the X-Tool one, in my opinion. But we're just going to leave that as is to test the out of the box piece. And then what we're also going to do is we're going to add an offset. So I do this almost all of the time, and we can make this a little bit bigger. And what we're going to do with that, and if we zoom in, so it's now got that outer one selected. We're going to do cut. So here, 100% power, 10% or 10 millimeter per second speed. All right, so now I've moved my tripod so that we can see what it's going to do. I'm going to click on autofocus. And this is something I didn't highlight earlier, is that this laser module actually uses LiDAR in order to set the height of the material so that it can focus appropriately. So right now, yeah, there we go. It's not touching it. Oh, this is great. I do like the X-Tool pinpointing system, and on the X-Tool P2, I did typically really like the camera system there, but this seems to be a totally different ball game. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to click on start, and I do have this hooked up to one of my smoke purifiers So I just want to turn that on. So you'll hear a little bit of a hum in the background. I'm going to click on start. And warning, do not leave it. Okay, that's fine. Take 6 minutes, so send. And this is my absolute first time doing this, I promise. Press the button, and there we go. And just looking at it so far, it's definitely a darker engrave, but I mean, you can dial that in as you want. The loudness of it, so it sounds a little louder than the S1, but pretty close. It's a little bit of a different sound. All right, and it's just about to switch to the cut, so we're gonna see how it transitions between the two. There we go. See a lot more smoke build up, totally normal. I did accidentally kind of pinch the logo when I was putting it in, but oh, okay, so it automatically lifts when it's done. I'm sure the exhaust will run for a moment longer. All right, now in the software, I did screw up a little bit with the logo and I did pinch it there, but this is mostly about judging the quality of the engrave and the cut. And this was a very intense engrave, so you definitely could lighten it up. That just takes practice. This is the first one. The cut was great, so really quite happy with the results. Again, other than me trying to get used to the software and just not doing that quite right. All right, so the next one we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be doing a slate coaster, one of my most common use cases. So in the software, we've just selected stone and stone/ceramic, slate stone, 3 millimeters. It's gonna focus on it automatically, so I'm not too concerned about that. And we can close this. And we're gonna autofocus. Again, using LiDAR, narrowing that down. Turn off the fume extractor. Press the button. All right. Now let's take a look at this. So this came out really, really well. Just brush it off. I would say that the stock settings, both on this and on the 3 millimeter basswood, let's see if I can get it to focus, are just a little bit stronger than I'm used to, but wow, does that look amazing. And you can just see the precision from the camera as well. That's perfectly centered. Very happy with that camera. Definitely the best camera that I've dealt with on a laser before. All right, and now we are going to do a piece of leather for one of our other tests. We're just gonna throw that right in the middle. And we are going to refresh. We're just gonna use the same logo that we had put in there so you can see that it's back there. I do like how it's a bit darker. Like I think this is the way that a camera should be. You just see more details. Then we're gonna go into leather. Oh boy, lots of options. What was this called? Dual layer PU leather, circular PU leather. Okay, you know what? This is what we're gonna do. And we're gonna do 1 millimeter. Let's do confirm. And let's shrink this down a little bit. Oh, and you can actually, so you can change the color of your project. I think that's pretty centered, not perfect, but I'm just looking to kind of test this right now. Let's just make sure fill engrave. So 33% power and quite fast. So this one's gonna be a pretty quick one. And let's autofocus. All right, that's done. Go start there, press the button, and let's go. All right, let's grab the piece. Just clean it off. And there we go. Again, really nicely centered in there. Really quite happy with the software and the camera working together. This, again, a little stronger engraved than usual. So yeah, probably on the tad of the extreme side with that. But again, super easy to tone that down. All right, so let's take a look at a variety of the material that I've been playing around with the last few days. And one thing I do want to highlight is that the MakeIt software from WeCreat is pretty good, but it's not perfectly dialed in for this laser yet. I found that the default settings were often too strong, so I did have to dial it back, which did result in me using a lot of these test arrays when it comes to working with different materials. So it's just a way for you to test different speeds and different strengths. And I was able to take kind of some of the issues that I had with some of the opaque acrylic. And then after doing that test array, just get absolutely perfect results on the next engrave and cut. So it worked really well. Things like the 3mm plywood, 6mm plywood, these stone coasters just worked perfectly out of the box. Did just have to tone it down a tiny bit. Leather generally worked really well. I did find if I was doing a very light engrave on some of these patches, it would miss some of my logo. So I don't know if it was more of the design that was impacting that. I did make sure these were perfectly flat, but there were some issues with that. But other times, if I was going deeper, it worked out absolutely perfectly. As far as other things I want to highlight, here we have solid walnut. This is 9mm thick solid walnut, and it cut this in, I did a couple tests here, 7mm per second. And while there is burning all along the outside, you can also see some pretty good walnut coloring in there. So a little bit of sanding, and you'd probably be able to get that looking pretty good. What's even more impressive is I was able to cut 14mm solid bird's eye maple in one pass. One pass at 2mm per second. Again, that burning, but it's not cupping like you often get with diode lasers when you're cutting this kind of thick material. So it's not cupping, so you can clean that up and get pretty good results. So overall, the strength of this is really good. You couple the 45-watt diode laser with the 2-watt, and you're gonna be an absolute machine. I love my 2-watt from on my Xtool S1. It allows me to engrave metal really well. So I think those two in combination can give you kind of the best results across a wide variety of material. It's been a blast having the WeCreat Vision Pro in the shop for the past week, and the last 3 nights I've been putting it through its paces with a wide variety of material, really kind of finding some of the things that I like and dislike about other lasers and testing them out on this. And so while I have a handful of things that I like and a handful of things I dislike, I'm going to share those with you now so you can make your own informed decision. Now, as far as the likes, the auto-focusing mechanism of this is absolutely phenomenal. So the combination of the LiDAR built into the laser module itself to really kind of sense where the material is, and the automatic raising and lowering of the entire laser here, like the entire body changing, is something that really kind of blows me away and is a very innovative approach and something very refreshing to see in the industry. Second of all, I want to highlight the build quality. This is built really, really well. It's a bit heavy, but it's not unreasonable. And I think that's because it's essentially kind of containing 2 mechanisms or 2 kind of big things in it. And they did not spare any expense when it comes to the building of this. While I did mention earlier in the video, it would have been nice if they cleaned up the cables and hid those a little bit more. It doesn't impact the functionality by any means. And I think as far as any sort of smoke or dust kind of getting in the rods that raise and lower it, I think those can be easily cleaned. I come from a world of 3D printing now, so I'm used to being able to do that kind of thing, but I haven't read anything online about that being an issue with any of the WeCreat Visions that were previously available. Other thing that I think is really kind of top-notch with this system is the camera. I think it's the best camera that I've used in a laser, and that includes my Xtool P2 that has dual cameras, kind of that one overarching one and then the one on the laser head itself. This camera, and I think the lighting in combination with it is fantastic. So I'm really quite happy with that. It works great with the WeCreat MakeIt software, and being able to update it in there, being able to then autofocus on it, and it really kind of like sharpens up the image after that as well. So really quite happy with that. I think the other thing that I am pretty happy with, but it's also going to be an even bigger dislike, is the software. The software is pretty good. I'm not somebody that wants to invest in the world of light burn. I found it a little complex when I was using it the first time around, so I have been relying on the individual manufacturers and the software they provide. So the WeCreat MakeIt software is pretty good, but I think it does have a little ways to go in order to make it kind of fantastic. Moving to the dislikes that I have with this, I think not necessarily number one, but one of them is the lack of a honeycomb bed in there. So the slats work great. I think it's the best slat system that I've ever found in a laser itself. But I am a honeycomb guy. I think that a couple things I really like about honeycomb is that when you are working with smaller pieces, the honeycomb can kind of work a little better versus kind of the bigger slats. The other thing with honeycomb is just using hold downs. Like almost none of the 3mm plywood that I use is perfectly flat. So being able to hold it down on the sides works really well with my Xtool S1 honeycomb. So I do hope that they come out with a honeycomb panel for this. It's not uncommon for those to be optional. I think that they are definitely more expensive for manufacturers, but I did want to highlight that as one of the things that the slats, best slat system I've ever used, but the lack of honeycomb definitely is a little disappointing. I think the other thing from a dislike is no controls on the front. So we have the one button, and that is very common across a lot of these lasers. Not many of them have buttons. However, given this laser and how it moves up and down, there's no way to get it from its rise position to this lower position without hooking it back up to my computer, turning the system off, turning the laser off, then back on, having it recognized in the software, then going and putting it into idle mode. So I feel like it really should have a couple of controls as far as kind of being able to home the laser module itself and being able to home essentially or put into idle mode. And I know that there are some safety concerns with that. If there is pieces of material in there, you could damage the laser head. But I feel like there needs to be something to be able to get it back to this spot without plugging in the computer. Now, if you are in a shop where you have this hooked up to a computer all the time, absolutely no concern. And I think that that's what a lot of small businesses are typically doing with their laser. Me kind of having my computer in and out of the house, not really the most common approach. As far as the other dislike, and this is kind of where I'm going to talk a little bit about the software. Now, the software, as I mentioned, pretty good. The material selection is not there for this laser yet. I was impressed with it at the beginning, just seeing kind of the names of the material and the thicknesses and all that kind of stuff. It's not organized perfectly. There's a lot of missing stuff in there. And I found that it was always super strong compared to what you would use for this laser. So whether it's just defaulting to 40-watt laser settings, and then you're essentially using this 45-watt laser with that BeamFocus technology, so close to that 60-watt power, are you using that, but at 40-watt settings? And I think that that's where it definitely is on the stronger side, and that's why I had to result in the test arrays. I think just like the Xtool software when it was in version 1 point whatever, once it got to 2.0, it was phenomenal. I love the Xtool XCS software, and we saw the same thing with Creality, where I think that pretty good software that's going to get better, and the same with the MakeIt software from WeCreat. So I am pretty confident in that. I think that this is still in pre-launch, so I think that the software probably will be updated at launch to support more material, and I think that that's something that I would definitely want them to improve over time. Now let's talk about pricing. And this is an interesting one because I think coming from the world of Xtool and a little bit of Creality, I see this as a direct competitor to the Xtool S1 40-watt laser. And I think because it has almost the identical expandability, almost identical accessories, it has the rotary attachment, it has the conveyor capabilities, it has the ability to swap the laser module to a 2-watt IR, which if you are looking for kind of an all-in-one laser system, swappable laser heads are amazing. 2-watt infrared is just great when it comes to working with glass and plexi and metal. So I would highly recommend you consider that if you are interested in some of those materials. So I do see this as an absolute direct competitor to the Xtool S1 with one caveat, and that's that the Xtool S1 would need to have the riser base in order to have the same level of functionality with this. So when I did a price compare, I did look at that because I think that most people that have a laser want to have the rotary tool. They want to be able to work with thicker material as far as engraving. So I think that the riser base on the Xtool side is kind of a must-have. So what's interesting here, and this is still in pre-release, releasing in a few days, I think April 14th is the date, and the pricing for lasers across any of the manufacturers fluctuate widely from time to time with sales coming in once in a while, but right now it's in pre-order pricing for $18.99 US with a regular price, so MSRP of $27.99. Now the Xtool S1 is currently selling at the time of this video for $18.99 plus another $199 for that riser base. So you are ahead by about $200 on this system right here. Now in Canadian dollars, this is $27.47 Canadian dollars, or just over $4,000 for its regular price. And that is just a tad higher than the $25.99 for the Xtool S1. However, you then add $279 for the riser base and you put the Xtool a little bit higher than this. So when it comes to kind of the basic package, you're a little less expensive for the WeCreat Vision Pro 45 watt. And I think, honestly, this 45 watt diode laser with that BeamFocus technology is absolutely killer. Other than my 55 watt CO2 laser, I haven't had this much power before, so the capabilities of this machine are really quite impressive. Now, if you are interested in purchasing, whether it's pre-order or after launch, I do have links in the description below, and that goes a long way if you do use those to help small creators like me. But yeah, I think overall, this is kind of best in class for its size and capabilities. I think it is a fun laser to play around with. It's highly capable, and the benefits definitely outweigh some of the drawbacks, because a few of those drawbacks will be addressed over time. So thanks for watching this review of the WeCreat Vision Pro 45 watt diode laser, and stay tuned for more videos soon.